All right, people stroll in at whatever time, we're going to get started. So, welcome. By this time you probably know my name is Susan Nash. For some reason I've had lots of exposure at this conference. Thank you very much. Welcome to this session on tips and techniques for verifying best fit type. So, this is on your handout. Best fit type means that the themes and preferred processes of that type seem to fit you best. And I've made one of my passions in the past 22 years helping people to verify best fit type. So what I'd like you to do in your table groups, let's spend 5 minutes or so talking about what are your greatest challenges in helping clients find best fit type. And a training technique, by the way, just so that you make sure that the group has understood your question or the activity, is to use an activity, a technique called prime and pump. And what that means is you get a sample answer for the group to make sure they've understood the question. So I'm just doing a facilitator moment. What are your greatest, give me one example of one of your greatest challenges in helping clients identify best fit type.
Maybe it's Americans, but they get that from taking the assessment, and it's very challenging to explain that you choose, you validate. They really want to stick with that letter because that's what the assessment's.
Yeah, so they see the assessment and there's something about the assessment that says, well, this must be like passing a test and that this is right, therefore. Very good. Well, it's 4 more table groups and a subplot of why is finding best fit type important, do you think?
Because a lot of times when they take the assessment, they're in a work environment perhaps, and they're wearing the hat of the work environment. So they're not really displaying what their natural preferences are.
Thank you. So often when people take it at work, they're thinking of their work persona, and therefore they're not getting the valid feedback or the ability to sort accurately about what they're really like. So let me give you 5 minutes in table groups to discuss those 2 questions, and then we'll be listening to some answers, and then we'll jump into the tips and techniques I use for verifying best fit time. So 5 minutes in your table groups. They are on the way. On the way. We're getting to 25, and we just asked for more. So they're on the way.
Question, what do you
I have one extra in the room right now.
information to discuss?
Who wants the one I got in the room right now?
What are your greatest challenges? She's like, and then that's just what you use. Right? Is that what you
Yeah, we're in there. I think as long as we just start talking about it, we'll probably be fine.
Close enough. Yeah. Kind of ish, you know. So yeah, ish. I think pretty good. Yeah.
Is a sign-in sheet for anyone who needs a sign-in sheet?
They see the letter and also I sometimes not on a continuity where it looks like it's a degree.
I talk a lot about different ways, like ways of care. I actually have talk about it. And so people do that is not with other things that I've started doing in my workshop. It's easier when I'm coaching. I mean, really, I don't even have an issue.
2 or 3 minutes.
It's only in workshop. Yeah, well, not the same. Yeah.
You know, kind of going through all of that kind of things. So myself on the other side. And, well, yeah, I'm getting with my son, I think I should be more like this. I'm like, this is because when you get your report back, there may be something different. As you go through the day,
And also, all
you know, we get to the point where it's time to identify what makes me I'll say, still for some of you, you may be uncertain. And it's okay. Use the question mark. Use that question mark. You know, and let's go through it. And so then I may even change my plan for to help you. So by the day we are on that fence, then it's kind of like if they don't know if they're here or there, then I'll say, but if I'm getting some indications, I'll take them to the one that I don't think they are. And I let them interact. And if they feel uncomfortable, if they feel like they're against it, okay, but now go
Then you can tell what they are.
Right, so let's wind up discussion.
She didn't read any other descriptions she used.
So what are your challenges? We've already talked about, oh, it's a test, you know, it's got to be right or wrong, so I've got to stick to those preferences. What are some of the other challenges you found in helping clients find best fit type?
I can do both.
Thank you very much. I can do both. I love Kyle's presentation. Of course you can. Yes, we're not one way or the other.
It's about the doing.
We're all about the doing.
But seriously, how do you counteract that?
Okay, so hold that thought. Let's just hold that thought. Yeah,
I find that there's a misunderstanding of what the difference, what extroversion and introversion actually are. And so it gets stuck about talkative or shy. So I have to do a lot of vocabulary building.
Yes, a lot of misunderstanding about what extroversion and introversion really is because of the stereotypes in our society. And so you have to put some language around it. And I really, you know, Jung really talked about it as the initial direction of your energy. And I think that helps because for an introvert, the energy goes in to think things through and then out through dominant auxiliary processes. And for extroverts, the energy naturally tends to flow out and then in. So talk things through and then think things through. And I think that's a very helpful distinction.
I think that on the sort of a flip side of that one is the JMP.
Right.
You know, it's like.
Anybody else have issue? People, clients like J and P, about JMP? Yeah, and I hardly ever refer to JMP because I don't use the dichotomies in that way. And as you know, judging and perceiving was added to try and highlight which function do you use in the external world. That's what it means. Do you use your judging function in the external world, which means you use either extroverted thinking, which I call systematizing, or extroverted feeling, which I call harmonizing. That's all that judging is supposed to mean. That which function do you use in the external world. Conversely, the perceiving preference is about using the perceiving function in the external world. And there are two external perceiving functions. I wish I had a flip chart here. I really do with my MBTI, but we were told no flip charts. Which are extroverted sensing and extroverted intuiting. On paper, that's all that that means. Which function do you extrovert? Your perceiving function or your judging function? And so I think as a result, a lot of the descriptions around the judging preference, particularly for those who use extroverted feeling, don't work as well. So I think that's a good challenge. Other challenges? Yeah.
It's less important than judging and perceiving, but sometimes with male managers, I see a tendency to would like to be a sensing, to would like to be a thinking.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, that's sort of, for managers, depending on the culture of that organisation, that's that would like thing. And I know that someone who's on one of my workshops recently said, well, you know, I'd like to be a millionaire, but I'm not. So let's take away the would like with what are you natural.
The contrast of a female not wanting to be a T,
Yes,
or NTJ.
yes, or a female feeling that they have to actually have that thinking preference to be successful in business. Good. Any other challenges that you highlighted?
Yes, we found, when they think that they've changed.
Yes.
And as I think that's life, and I understand you're tapping into your opposite and you're developing that and it's natural. So now I think that, so it's hard for them to get to what's the core.
Thank you. So as people mature, they have greater access to some of those other functions, and so they think they change their type. I know Hyle talked about this yesterday. From my perception, the assessment on the indicator might have changed because they're using different cognitive processes. The core type has remained the same, it's just they're accessing different functions. All right, so why is finding best fit type important? Why am I obsessive about it? Why not?
Why not?
Let's have that conversation later on your lunch. Yes. Why is it important?
Why not?
Well, I think it's important, especially when you're coaching and you're working with teams, helping them understand one another and themselves better, understand what the true type is and being able to own it and see that they're all workable, etc.
Yeah, so I think if you're working with a team and people aren't at best fit, they're not going to be able to use the information in a practical way to get a benefit. Yes.
It's the starting point of the journey. So if you're off a couple of degrees by the time you get way out there, you're really well.
Yeah, starting point of the journey, and if we've got the wrong starting point, it's a little difficult to get to the right part of the journey.
I think at an individual level, if they're struggling in their job or they're struggling with the situation, you know, they don't understand why that is. Yeah. It might be that they're not really tapping into what's more natural for them.
Thank you. Yes, if they're in a difficult situation, they're not probably able then to tap into what is it and how do they help use this knowledge to help them move through it.
And thinking in terms of the type community, if someone has bad information, they are likely to speak poorly about.
And that's one of those key things. If someone has bad information, then they are likely to speak poorly about the whole process. And I mean, how many times have you heard someone say, well, you know, it was a bit like a horoscope.
Yes.
You know, some things I agree with, some things were and that means that they haven't found best fit yet. Because for me, I found that once someone finds best fit, they probably agree with 90 to 95% of what the type description says, and they feel, oh yes, finally I feel like I'm being understood. Molly, and then
Theoretically, it's helpful to know what areas of perception and judgment are your strengths, because it gives you the anchor so you can be more decisive with what fits you most, and then you at least theoretically grow to learn the other areas of perception.
Thank you. So the accurate information about what is your gift in terms of perception, what is your gift in terms of judgment, enables you to be able to utilize those more effectively. I worked with someone who had been in the military, and he assessed every time as ESTJ, which we would call an in-charge stabilizer. And then we went through this process, which I'm going to describe in high level to you, and you're going to use. And he came away as a get things going improviser, so preferences for ESFP. And I think it's a very sad story because he died at a very young age. He died at 52, and I think he was constantly living outside his preferences, and I think that places a stress on the body in different ways.
There's two left.
We've got two left, and we may need to get someone who doesn't have time.
Perfect.
So how many of you were here for Linda's keynote on, was everyone here for Linda's keynote? So they heard the multiple models. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to use the multiple type lenses in helping verify best fit type. So the first lens I use is temperament, which is about why we do what we do. Now, I've provided some tools that you're going to be able to use today. So on the table in front of you, and I'm going to ask for sort of a table monitor, because you're going to end up with about, let's see, not about, 32 cards spread all around the table. And I'd love a table monitor to get them back afterwards. These are part of our Type Trilogy set, and they didn't reach Sue Blair's quality standards, so we're able to use them for activities. So you've got a set of temperament cards. So you've got an artisan or improviser, stabilizer, theorist, and catalyst. And the preferences are listed on the diagram, so you can see the preferences associated with each. I'm tending to use the new names, which are the Linda Behrens names. So that's a tool that you've got. So you've got two, so you've got one set of those. You've got two sets of those per table. Two sets. Right, just lose the group of tactical awareness. So let's put them back down for a minute, because we're going to come back to them. So put them back down. And the real macrame part of the day is make sure you don't lose the rubber band. The rubber band. Okay. Then you've also got, I use interaction styles a lot. How many of you use interaction styles with clients? How many of you use interaction styles with clients? Wow.
How about how many of you will?
Yes.
So again, on the table you've got two sets of cards which have the four interaction styles. So you've got in charge, chart the course, get things going, and behind the scenes. So you've got four cards. For those of you who are not so familiar, would you like to jot down which are the four type groupings for each of the interaction styles? Would that be helpful?
Yes.
So in charge, help your neighbour here. Make sure you've got them written down. So in charge, I always go improviser, stabilizer, theorist, catalyst. So it's ESTP, ESTJ, ENTJ, and ENFJ. Chart the course, ISTP, ISTJ, INTJ, and INFJ. And they're indirectly on your handouts, but I thought it might be helpful to have the overview. For get things going, it is behind the, I was going to do get things going.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I always do in charge chart course, get things going behind the scenes. No idea why, that's just what I do.
So they're on the bottom of the card.
Oh, they're on the bottom of the cards, of course they are, but if you want them written as well, do you want me to write them, go through as many?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, of course they're on the card. ESFP.
Wait, I'm sorry, which one now?
Get things going.
So that was
ESFP. ESFJ. ENTP. And ENFP. Let's get these done. And then behind the scenes is ISFP, INFP, ISFJ, and INTP. I also use, of course, the cognitive processes. So there are two sets of cognitive processes in the card. So remember, these are what we call the Jungian function attitudes. And on the card, you've got S with a little e, so that's extroverted sensing. And I have come up with some nomenclature which I've used for 15, 20 years, so I'm not going to change it. So I have one word that captures the essence of each of the functions. So those are the 8 cognitive processes. And I'm not going to say which types use them as the dominant or auxiliary, because you'll see on the handout which types use which cognitive processes. So when I'm working with people to get to best fit type, I come in through all 3, and use all 3 cognitive, I use all 8 cognitive processes, I use temperament, and I use interaction style. And some have lack of clarity over temperament, some have lack of clarity over interaction style, some have lack of clarity over their cognitive processes. So in your handout, I've given you a Venn diagram for each of the 16 types. So if you scan through each of the 16 types, you have the temperament, the interaction style, and the hierarchy of cognitive processes. So how might this as a tool be useful for you, do you think?
By looking at it through different lenses, you're narrowing down that core.
Thank you. By looking at different lenses, we're able to narrow down into core type. So what I'd like you to do is this. And you'll need a partner to do this. And we're going to do this exercise in table groups, but I'm going to do the exercise for the group, in the group first, just to show you how it works. So the 2 types we're going to look at, which I hear a lot in terms of confusions, are ISTJ and INTJ. So can you get at least one of the ISTJs open on the table in front of you, maybe with your partner, or 3? And have an ISTJ in front of you and an INTJ map in front of you. In the handout. In the handout.
Yep, I got it. Yeah, there we go.
So INTJ, so one of you have INTJ in front of them, or if you're in 2s or 3s, one have ISTJ. Perfect. INTJ is on page 6. ISTJ is on page 8. So you'll have to have 2 handouts next to each other. I tried to put the 2 next to each other on the page, it just didn't work. So that's how you have to do it. So you've got an ISTJ and an INTJ next to each other. Yeah, now have a look. What do they have in common? Looking at the circles, what have they got in common?
They're both chart.
Thank you. So why don't you pull out the chart the course interaction style card and put that there. So they have that in common. So 2 groups per table.
You guys can work.
If anyone needs an extra couple of sets for a big table, so we can do it. Yeah, we could use one.
Susan?
We've got some large tables, small tables. I have 2 more sets. Is it 2 3? All right. So charcoal is similar. All right. What are the differences? All right, what's
Differences or similarities?
so ISTJ is
Stabilizer.
stabilizer. And ISTJ is rational or theory. So get those two cards out, put them next to each other. They're the temperament cards.
Stabilizer.
Theorist is the one, right?
Are you doing interactions? What are we doing?
So are we all set? Help your neighbour if you're on the table. So you've got...
Okay. Yep.
Got it?
Yep.
All right. So we're probably not going to use the blue card, which is the catalyst, and we're not going to use the orange card right now, which is the improviser. So you can sort of take those to one side.
Can you sing?
So then, what's the differences? What other differences are there in those two Venn diagrams?
Is that okay?
There are functions.
Two functions are different. So INTJs have what first? Visioning. So you might want to put visioning under rational. Visioning is NI. What does ISTJ have? Recalling, so that's SI. Then what's their second function, or their auxiliary function? Systematizing, so that's the same, so you can put that there. Extroverted thinking. Then their third function for both is valuing. So you put valuing there. That's in their conscious hierarchy. It's just not in their four-letter code. And then what's the difference in the what we call the inferior, or Linda calls the aspirational function? What's the difference in the fourth function? Experiencing and brainstorming. Experiencing and brainstorming. Thank you.
Sorry, we're making a little man here. He's got arms and legs. He's got feet. Sorry. It's like Siamese twins, two different sets, four sets of legs, and the same
Third one is bad. Andy is
We are making a little figure here with arms and legs. This time it looks like that. It'll look different next time. So, everyone got everything laid out like that? So let me ask you the question then. Why might a client be confused between these two types? What might be some reasons the client might be confused? There's a lot of overlap. Now, why is it helpful to see the overlap?
The auxiliary and the tertiary.
Yeah, and you can see the similarities between their interaction styles. So they've got the same deliberate, focused, calm, methodical energy. So that could certainly give some confusion to them. What are some other similarities? Yes, so there they are. They both use extroverted thinking or systematizing. So that is about putting together a logical plan to organize resources in the most efficient way to achieve goals. So they're going to be very sort of, they're going to look quite practical and task and time oriented, both from the chart the course and from systematizing. Good. What other similarities do they have? Value. Yeah, so they've both got what we call in that child function, that valuing. So their systematizing is anchored by a clear set of values. So, yeah. What other similarities? If you just looked at the 4-letter code, what other similarities are there? I, so they both have an introverting preference. Yeah, good. What else?
An extroverted judgment.
They have extroverted judgment, yes. What else?
Oh, extroverted thinking. Yeah.
Extroverted thinking, yes. What else? In the 4-letter code alone? Judging. So they both have the judging preference, which they would have if they use systematizing, because that's what the judging means. Plus there is a connection in temperament terms between stabilizers and theorists, is that they both like to structure. Theorists like to structure from a what we call multi-dimensional, so categories or headings, and stabilizers like to structure in a sequential way. So they're sharing that sort of preference for structuring the external world. They both like to improve systems. That's another element. Stabilizers like to improve within the current system. How do INTJs like to improve the system?
What system?
What system? Let's reinvent the system. Yes, let's look at the system. So these two, how many of you have had people who've been confused between these two types? ISTJ and INTJ. I've had lots and lots of people who are confused between them. So what are the differences then? How are we going to help this client to separate what they think is their best fit?
It's between the introverted sensing and the introverted intuition.
Very nice. I think a key difference is obviously their dominant information gathering, and it's their dominant function, the information gathering function, is between introverted sensing, or I call it recalling, or for ISTJs, or introverted intuiting for INTJs. So how might you help a client to differentiate between those two cognitive processes? Absolutely right, and look at the cards and see the differences. Yes. So, and what sort of questions might you ask to help them? I mean, the cards themselves create a discussion. What sort of questions might you ask more generally to help differentiating between introverted sensing and introverted intuiting?
What I do often is ask them whether they base their action based on past history or based on a vision of the future.
Thank you very much. And I often like to ask it in a more open way, which is, to what extent do you tend to look at past history when deciding what to do? Because when we give an either or, that sort of forced choice as the APTi does, that might stimulate the I do both. So to what extent do you go back and look at prior experience? Now, the difficulty for this one is that theorist time orientation is infinite. So to an extent, they do scan past, present, and future, although they will identify more with the present and the future and the infinite, probably. Good. What else? Yes?
I actually have had some interesting, when I talk about the experience of imagining and what kind of activities they enjoyed when they were younger.
Very nice. Often there are some general questions. Imagining what type of activities you liked when you were younger. Yes. Because that can often get out through the developmental lens. Very nice.
And I've actually had one ISTJ type said, don't ask me to imagine, because if I haven't experienced, I won't be able to give you an answer.
Thank you. If I haven't experienced it, I mean, one of the questions I use is often a couple of ones about introverted sensing. One is, how do you feel about starting with a blank sheet of paper with something you've never done before? And that can often send our ISTJs into immediate stress. It's not the goal, but it can give you a good clue. The other thing I like to ask, there's something about introverted sensing that is, and I think it's tied with our stabilizer values, is about possessions. You know, how protective are you, and maybe not quite protective, but how important to you are your possessions, and how aware are you of where your possessions are or should be. So for instance, we are blessed with a granddaughter who I'm absolutely sure has preferences for ISTJ, even though she's currently only 5. Because let me tell you, she knows where every possession is, she knows who picked it up, where they put it down, where it should be, and incredible recalling at the age 5. So last time we went to the zoo, Grandma, we did this, and this. I want to do this differently this time. So that possessions, to what extent does the past play like a videotape, but certainly for dominant introverted sensing, the ability to go back and be in that experience again. So lots of questions. Now what about some questions around visioning? Yes, sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to share, what I do oftentimes is get a response to like some type of metaphor or stories that have, you know, like a message at the end, and just get that visceral reaction. And oftentimes it is very clear.
Yeah. So it could be using some sort of metaphor or symbolism. One of the things I've noticed though with our guided stabilizers, they've got actually brainstorming as a third or fourth function. So actually as they mature, they're pretty good on metaphors. I mean, when I do an activity with photographs at the end of a workshop, and I swear our stabilizers come up with the most beautiful metaphors. So that can look very abstract. Yeah. So what else about visioning? What sort of questions might you ask to try and find out if someone uses that cognitive process?
I have a sort of a related question you can help clarify. I'm just curious in your experience, if you were to present, say, the national flag of whatever country to that person and say, what does this mean to you? Would you see a difference between how introverted sensing versus intuition in terms of that response?
So if you showed a flag of the country, would you see a difference between someone with introverted sensing or introverted intuiting? Not sure. Cultural lens, family, sort of values. Although I would imagine that introverted sensing might be more concrete and realistic versus more symbolic.
That's a decision where your values are.
And Susan, this is just a question. I would just wonder if it would bring up more feeling stuff than values.
That's what it feels like a values question. It does. So, I mean, a question often is, to what extent have you ever had what we call these shower solutions? You're stewing on a problem, shower solutions, and I don't mean Radox bath salts or something. No, I mean, you're in and you suddenly, you're stewing on a sort of problem, or you want to come up with an idea, and then suddenly the idea comes to you, and it comes to you in its entirety. And that is, for those with a dominant introverted intuitive, that often they've got, oh yes, that happens to me all the time. So, have you got an example, Tim, that you'd be comfortable sharing?
We were talking about it this morning.
We were talking about that this morning. Someone brought that up.
And another INTJ.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, everything she needed to do here before, holistic.
I mean, what Angelina said about her book, Shadows of Type, she said really just the book was there as an introverted intuitive vision, and then she had to go out and actually, in her lovely down-to-earth way, and justify it with all the research. So that can help. So looking to, the interaction style is going to look very similar for a charter course stabilizer and a charter course theorist, and it's quite similar. So, how do you feel about this activity? Do you feel like you could do this in your table groups? Yes. All right, so I'd like us to focus on certain pairings that I feel or have experienced as some challenging ones. So I'd like you to look at ISFP, which is the behind-the-scenes improviser, and INFP, which is the behind-the-scenes catalyst. following this process. So ISFP, INFP. Oh, no, I'm going to give one to each table. So that we hear lots of input. So this table, my favourite confusion, this one really, is ISTP, the chart, the course improviser versus INTP, which is a behind-the-scenes theorist. I'd like you to look at another one which we should have lots of expertise to do, which is versus ID in charge.
Because we're going to make a new one, right?
I would like you, and this is quite different, to look at the in-charge improviser, so that's ESTP, and the in-charge theorist, which is ENTJ.
That is quite different.
It's quite different.
You can't spare the flag. No, I was kidding. Yep, I got it. ESTP. ENTJ is a theorist. Don't even lean them.
No, not lean them.
Water, wet. Yeah.
Oh, are we doing it all? Is it the whole table? Oh, okay.
So they're both in charge.
Someone in charge.
He's an improviser and theorist. Here's theorist. Who's got improviser? There we go. Then we have SE versus TE. SE versus TE.
You got both?
Okay, no, that's actually the ESTP and that's the ENTJ. And then we've got TI versus NI. TI here, NI there. And then we've got FE versus SE, FE here, SE there. And NI versus FI. We need SE over there. Oh, we need the other set then.
Okay, we're coming.
Oh, they're both together.
Well, because they share functions, but in different positions.
In different positions.
Ah, okay.
Oh, SE.
SE.
So light green. There it is.
And then NIFI.
Oh, we need more room.
Only you can have to move your T. Please. We're taking over your T space.
So your T space.
NIFI.
Go to the back of the class secondary. The front of the class is more of an overview.
You got him?
We need NI. Right there.
Like the gold color, the bronze gold.
Yeah, going. And E or NI?
NI. There you go.
There it is.
We need NI. Okay, so this is ESFP, ESTP, this is TJ. Okay.
It worked.
Need bigger tables.
We do. We need
another tables when you do these. Holy cow.
I'm an ENTP.
Oh, INFP.
So I'm just looking at the in charge.
In charge.
Yeah, but I'm supposed to be behind the scenes, but I don't know. It comes out in me a lot.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
She's supposed to be behind the scenes, and I am supposed to be the... I'm supposed to be getting things going.
Which you do.
Well, what happens?
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
I act as an ENTJ anytime I need it.
Yeah,
which is at work all the time.
Actually, I'm not an intro. I get things. I'm gonna get things right, but even though it's a interaction,
It's almost finding what's similar rather than what's different. I mean, why would they
get confused a lot?
They do.
Yeah, that's interesting.
In the world. All right, I guess we're gonna
have a look at the questions. Why do you think they might be confused?
Why do they get confused?
Well, they're both
Just because the energy, people are just reading the
They're both
energy.
visioning, and they're both experiencing. So they have three things that are both similar to each other.
Oh, and then maybe depending on what.
It really is because everything so they want to know the right thing and they're implementing it.
This one wants to take
Like crazy, which is so interesting to see. Yes, Susan, can I ask a question? Well, it won't be a quick question. On the lenses, I understand where you get temperament. What is interaction style based on?
It's based on, it came originally from a writing process. There's a book called Masters Emotions of Normal People, which was the origins of DISC social styles.
Okay.
Kiersey actually started to describe it in Please Understand Me Too because he had the role directing and role informing. And Linda took Kiersey's research and all the other research as an ICP and integrated it and made it consistent. So it's a separate theory.
And then the cognitive processes.
That's the Jungian work.
And this is your dominant.
Yes.
Secondary, tertiary.
Secondary. Yeah.
So this basically
I was used to reading the other way up though. These are what we call the aspirational, but actually the first and the fourth provide the spine of your personality. So actually if you can access that, that's why Linda calls it the aspirational function, it gives your personality good balance. Because you've got both types of information. And here you've got both types of decision making, and they call that your arms of your personality.
I understood this to be your most comfortable or your least comfortable.
That's really oversimplification. Each of these has, the BB archetype theory talks about, each has a pattern or a flavour. And this is definitely your heroic function. This is what we call the parent, so it sort of looks after them. This is your child, so it's your sort of playful highs and lows. And this is your aspirational, and most of us, I think in the type community, you can develop some of that will give you personality balance. It's the bottom part that tend to play out when you have some control over these, the others tend to control you when you're under stress.
So the grip theory holds that you're in this.
If this doesn't hold and you don't use this, you tend to go sliding down into your shadow side, which is the other four cognitive processes. And the hierarchy is the difference.